On Adam Bate from Spring Forward Landscaping, and Adam's company is quite fantastic. A journey, I suppose. He's celebrating 5 years in business, and for anyone that's in the SME sector, 5 years in business is quite an achievement. Adam, tell us a little bit about you for anyone that doesn't know, that maybe isn't on LinkedIn, that doesn't follow your stories of your transformation, your gardens. How did you kind of get started, or a little bit about you, I suppose?
I hate talking about myself, but I suppose nobody likes talking about themselves. So my name's Adam. I'm married to my wife Lorna. We've got 4 kids. They range from 14, 12, 7, and 6. And we live in a place called Worcester, which is just west of Birmingham in England. So that's me and a bit of personal life. And yeah, background. I've had a working career in the practical in the outdoor world. So yeah, it's me.
Love it. So you're 5 years in business, which is big because everyone knows that first year or two, first really 3 years is make or break, Adam. So kind of what gave you the courage? What said to you, do you know what, Louise, 5 years ago, where did it come that you actually said, do you know what, I'm going to go off and do it on my own?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I've always worked in the outdoor sector. I started off at a local farm in Arboretum, then went to work for Network Rail, and then the police headquarters as a gardener there. So I was at the police headquarters, 25, kind of in, I'd say mid prime. I know that that's probably a contentious issue with age. But yeah, for what's the worst that can happen? So 25, went out, bought a small van, left full-time employment, and set up the company.
Wow, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
So what was it like at the I suppose what was it like at the early stages? What did you find, I suppose, challenging when you went into that phase where you said, you know what, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna set up my own company, have your van. What was kind of the key learning pieces, or what would you say looking back now on those early, I suppose, days, did you feel was a big learning?
Yeah, well, it's funny, really. I mean, I've never really been academically clever. So going into business, I didn't know anything. I mean, I didn't know what a KPI was. I didn't know about market research. I didn't know about websites. I didn't know about SEO. I didn't know about anything of all that jazz that kind of comes along with running a business. So essentially, you go out pretty much as a nomad and just pick things up as you kind of go along, really. I mean, I was at that stage of life where what was the worst that could happen, really? And I mean, as I said, to 25, a good time to do it. Worst thing that could happen was it didn't work out, and I went back to full-time employment. Obviously, it hasn't gone that way, which is great. But yes, so I think generally you just kind of pick things up over the years, and you make it work, and you adapt, and you're flexible. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And do you know what? There's something to be said, Adam, in sometimes you're better off not knowing,
Yeah.
because I think, and in saying that, you said, you know what, I went in and I didn't. And I think that is fantastic in itself, because I think sometimes when you do know a lot of that, it can be pretty overwhelming. Because there's so much going on in your head that you're kind of going, well, I can't do all of this, so I just need to focus on that one area. And I
Yeah.
think, yeah.
Yeah, completely. And I mean, I take that for granted now. And I mean, we'll come on to it in a bit, but Lorna, my wife, has now come into the company, and she hasn't got any background in sales or marketing. And for me, then giving her the reins with the marketing and going, well, come on, you're supposed to be doing this X, Y, and Z, and she's like, well, I don't know. Like, so I take that for granted as well. And sometimes it's good to go back to basics and go, or maybe you have got to start from scratch. But yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I love that. And I think we all have our own way of doing things and operating. And I think it's very much a journey of discovery, because even if you have those academic things, it doesn't really actually, there's always going to be a way of you doing it in your own, you know what I mean? You're gonna have to figure out how to do it your own way. I think there's a little bit of that you have to figure out your own path.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So how did I can see your name, your company up there just above your head. How does the name come about? What does it mean?
So again, that's a bit of a contentious issue because I claim to have come up with it, but Lorna also claims to come up with it. So I think I've got to agree with Lorna, and Lorna decided upon the name. But yeah, so I think we came up with it because it was garden related. It was spring and forward, as in forward. The gardens move forward. So I think that's where spring forward came from. And you know what? I probably wouldn't choose another name now. It sounds daft to say that, but yeah. So that's how it originated. And yeah, as I said, it was a I won't say it was a long process, but it was a couple of months of working kinks out before setting off.
Yeah, yeah, very good. Um, I suppose going into business, there's people can feel a little bit lost, Adam. And I know for myself, the first kind of year was a big steep learning curve where I figured out who my market was, who my market wasn't, I suppose, as well. Because I think sometimes when you go into business, um, and you're needing the money in the business, you kind of want, you're like, like a fisherman throwing out your net, and everyone is the fish is everyone, you want to get all the customers. I suppose, did you learn anything about that in your first couple of years, I suppose, understanding who your market was and
Yeah,
figuring that
and
out?
I mean, as I said, it's kind
Yeah.
of going into it from a nomad and not knowing anything. I left the police headquarters with 10 days of work lined up, and that's kind of a real kind of step because you go, well, I've only got 10 days of work, and it's one of those where for us you start off doing small garden projects like a bit of weeding here, hedge trimming there, a little bit of a fence job and then gradually over the course of the months and years, you kind of start taking on bigger projects and you kind of learning as you go in because nobody knows everything on day one. It's a continual process of learning, and so kind of my real yeah it's I think, as I said again, at that point, you don't really think about your market. You don't think about your competitors. You kind of just going out and just putting your name out there, brand awareness, um, start going to different networking groups and all of this and events and feel like a fish out of water. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I love it, Adam. I love the fact that your business is a manual business, but it's a business that you've made it your own. You know what I mean? You've made it your own with your branding. I suppose in an industry that we kind of take for granted a little bit. You walk past those really nice gardens, you take it for granted. You don't realize the people behind it.
yeah, and you also take it for
Mm.
granted when you're building them. Really, I mean, some projects we're on, which are I don't know, three to 4 weeks long, and you get lost in the build,
Yeah.
and this is why before and after photos are so crucial because then you can look back and go, well, actually, we have done a lot, and you do you kind of. I think once you go through the years, you do take it for granted what impact you are having on clients and their outdoor spaces and I mean certainly okay so I suppose topically COVID and the 2 years where people or year and a half where people were locked in their homes,
Yeah.
gardens and stuff were just so important really to get out and to have their space where they could
Yeah.
yeah just a separate room really.
Yeah, it was their sanctuary almost.
Mm.
And for a
Yeah,
lot of people, their garden is their special place to go
yeah,
to in the
yeah,
house. I think it's a lovely place when you have that. And I think what COVID thought of is reconnecting a little bit what you do for a living, Adam, which is quite special that you are out and outside and in nature. And I think for a lot of us that work in office jobs, that we actually we 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 didn't really appreciate that and we disconnected, and I think COVID brought us back to reconnecting with our gardens, with the outside again.
yeah, exactly. And I think you mentioned it about the service industry. It's I won't say that there's a stigma in the service industry. I think there are a lot of people who appreciate what we do, but I feel certainly with the trades element, it probably could be could have a bit more exposure really, and a bit more a bit more appreciation really, I think, because I think we are the lifeline of the country. And I mean, again, it's another topical thing with the construction industry at the moment. I mean, I read a statistic the other week that for every 7 guys that are retiring, only one comes into the industry, which I think that's a phenomenal stat really. And eventually, if we're not careful, it's going to be a dying breed really. And I mean,
and what I thought was great, Adam, and I did see a post that you were giving talks in high schools about the industry. So it's about educating people maybe that
yeah,
don't know about this as a career, which I think
yeah,
is important. Yeah.
exactly, that's it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think that's brilliant. So you went and done that talk with the high school.
Yeah. So that was the first one that we've done, or that I've done, and yeah, it was great, really. I mean, in terms of a practical task for the kids, I got a local baker in our networking group to make some gingerbread houses kits that we got the kids to put together in groups. And yeah, it was quite eventful, really. But
Yeah.
it's good to get them into that mindset that there are other jobs out there, and not just sitting at desks or technology, which is all great. It's all great fields,
Yeah.
but I think we need to know that we're all
There's
different.
variety. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And there's other things out there for people that do like to get their hands stuck in, or that like being outdoors, that's a career option for them. Yeah. So anyway, so coming back to where we are now, I suppose you started off, if we rewind back, you said 25, had, decided that, you know what, I'm going to set up this business, and you are now 5 years later. Talk me through where the company is now, I suppose, to this present day.
So obviously where I started, it was a sole trader, then became limited company, and now 5 years on, there's 5 of us in the company. So there's me, my wife, there's 2 chaps on the landscaping team, and we've also got a member on the maintenance side. So it has really grown, and it I have to now consider us as an established company, which is quite weird saying that. So an established company, fleet of vehicles, own storage yard. We're now booked up. I mean, so I talked about having 10 days worth of work. We're now pretty much booked up till the end of the year on the landscaping projects, and have also booked out a quarter of the year next year. So I think there's real demand. People are staying in their homes, that they're having it done, having the work done. And yes, so that's us, and that's great that the brand's out there, and we're here to stay. That's it.
How did you, because I think there's a risk involved, I think, okay, because what I see happen, I suppose, from a business perspective, Adam, and from talking to business owners, is there's a big fear, when you are a sole trader, you're minding yourself, okay? So the risk isn't as high as when you decide, do you know what, I'm going to be an employer. I'm going to start hiring people. And it's a growth piece that needs to happen, but it's a bit scary. It's a worry because you're paying somebody's, livelihood, they've family to feed or whatever that is. What, I suppose, is there anything, if there was someone listening to this right now, right, and they were going, I really want to employ people, but I'm really bricking it. I really don't know if I can take that plunge. Can you talk us through a little bit, like, you're smiling here as I'm saying it, so you can obviously relate a little bit, but any advice you'd give?
Well, I mean, the honest answer is it is tough, and I mean, I can't lie and say, oh yeah, it's all going to be all right, it's going to be fine, because
Yeah,
sometimes it isn't, and
yeah,
and and it is a worry, and it is a constant worry. However, I think it's just having trust and confidence in yourself to keep going, and now that we've been going for such a period of time, you can, to an element, track what's coming in terms of you can see. So for an example, I do this every year, right? It's August, it's holidays, the kids are out, our inquiries just dropped dramatically, and I know that's the same for others because it's August. People are away. Nobody wants to think about their gardens. They're all on holiday in Spain or wherever, having sunning it up. But I know that our inquiries drop, but I shouldn't be worried because then September, October, November, they then start picking back up for next year. So it's having that confidence and those processes that you can look back on and go, okay, so I've not had much coming in, but I can be assured that it will change. And I mean, yeah, it's money's always an issue, but it's just something that you just need to be aware of, really, and just keep monitoring. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I think you've made a very valid point there that I think people that are starting out maybe mightn't be aware of, that most of the work, depending on the industry you're in, it's seasonal. So I think that's important because for me, for example, with my training business, do I get training booked in November, December? No, because everyone is winding down at that point. You know what I mean? So people aren't going on training. They're getting ready for Christmas. There's slowdown. There's people booking holidays. There's a lot going on. It's family time. So I think, and it's understanding where your highs and your lows are in your business and capitalizing on those. So if January is a busy month, then that's your quarter for do you have your sales pipeline built, all of that. So I think it's understanding, like you said, those busier periods in your business, like you said, they're not worrying, because it's seasonal in
Yeah,
some
of
ways.
course, of course, and as I said, that's easy. It's easy to say not to worry because I think as
Yeah,
business owners, you do that. There's always an element of
yeah,
I mean, what's the other one that they call it? It's imposter syndrome, isn't it?
yeah.
There's always that element that you're not good enough and you're not doing this and you should be doing that and you should be doing this. But it's yeah, it's just finding your own skin, I suppose, isn't it? And being
Yeah. And you know what? I think what comes with a little bit of that kind of self-doubt or questioning is behind that is a drive to want to do really well. Because anyone that has that element, they're constantly looking to grow. They're constantly looking to expand. They're looking, and I think, that's a byproduct, I think, sometimes of that. And I don't think if anyone is constantly growing and changing, I don't think that they will never not have a little bit of imposter syndrome, because I think it's part of the process. It's not that it's debilitating to the point that you think I can't do anything, but it's that it's there and it might dip in and out, but you're going, you know what? I get it. And I've heard you, Mr. Imposter, but I'm going to keep going the way I am, because I need to get this stuff done and I'm going to talk to you later when I'm at home. So I think that's it's really interesting. Um, What's your favorite part of the job, Adam? Because a lot of people would go, okay, what is it you love most about your job?
So. I mean, as you know personally, my role is changing over
Yeah.
now that I'm in a position where I've got folk under me. I'm trying to work more on the business rather than in the business. So my role's changing slightly, but in terms of the physical side of it, and what I love is I love the garden changing, and that's changing. As I said earlier, but when you see the befores and afters, and the client comes out and they go, "Wow, like I didn't realise the garden was this big," and kind of you've widened it up, or you've added a nice seating area where they can sit and relax. I think that's what I enjoy. It's the transformation aspect. So if I revert back to when I was at the police headquarters, a lot of it was maintenance, and it was almost like painting the Golden Bridge. You would start mowing at one end of the site and get to the other end, and then have to start back at the other end. So for me, that was quite boring in a way because it was just mowing. Whereas I like the transformational side to it, and that's what I kind of enjoy. And yeah, yeah,
Yeah, the visual, yeah. And gardening is quite visual, I think. It's something that it's a treat for the eyes. I think it's
yeah,
you see it
yeah,
and you emotionally go, oh my God, this
yeah,
looks
yeah,
fantastic.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, biggest learning you've had personally, because you talked a little bit around there, I suppose, and for anyone listening, what has been the biggest kind of hurdle in the last 5 years, you would say? Um, because the business comes into the person comes into the business, but personally, is there any skill that you've had to hone in on or you've had to um get better at in order to grow your business?
So the biggest thing for me is going back to that employing and
Yeah.
staffing.
Yeah.
Um, so obviously when you're going from a sole trader to a company and,
Hmm.
and having people and having people that are in your business that you have to, yeah, yeah.
The
I'm not,
leadership kind of side of things, is it?
yeah,
Leading teams and
yeah.
motivating. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And obviously we've all got different styles and personalities, and when you're throwing that into the mix, and you've got your own business, and you want it to be, I mean, people have used this analogy. It's almost like having a baby. Your business is so when you're trying to give your baby to somebody else, and you're going, but they have to go to bed at this time, and they need to have milk at this time, and that's kind of the issue with staff is we all need staff in all of our businesses. We all need staff.
Yeah.
That's so crucial to what we do, really, especially in the service industry. Um, and it's learning how people tick, and how to lead them, yeah, and how to manage situations, and how to manage expectations and the projects, and yes, so that's been my real issue over the past 3 years, is kind of learning how to grow that aspect of the business.
Yeah, yeah, and I think anyone that's on a journey in leadership, be it inside an organization or outside, there's different push and pull factors involved in it. And as you said, it's personalities, and I think it isn't a one size fits all. It really isn't. And when you're dealing with people, you very much have to adapt to hone in on, like you said, what motivates one person isn't going to motivate another. What gets someone out of bed in the morning won't get someone else out. It's very much an individualized approach, and that comes with learning like that, learning the behaviors of the person, and learning how to manage them in a way that keeps them interested in the job. And there's a lot involved in that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and I don't think there isn't a silver bullet
yeah,
that means you can get away from that either. It's
yeah.
something that's going to continually happen. And I know for instance in the hospitality sector that's more common because there's a higher turnover of staff, and that is more evident. But it's just it's finding those gems of staff members, and they are out there. There are genuine. There's a lot of people out there who do want to do well, and they do want to help the business grow.
Mm.
So it's finding those, and once you find them, it's keeping them, and it's treating them well, really, because if you treat them well, hopefully they are going to treat you well. So
Yeah, 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 yeah. Where is Spring Forward Landscaping go to go? So we're here, it's 5 year anniversary. Where do you see the business in the next 5 years? I know it's kind of a bit away, but where do you see it? Where do you see the business going?
I'd be closer to 40 then. So that's I'd be on the wrong side of it. Anyway, yeah, so it's 5 years. I mean, so we've got one landscaping team at the moment and a maintenance team. I mean, I'd like to hope that in 5 years we can almost double that rate. Well, at least double that. I mean, if we have two landscaping teams and two or three maintenance teams, that's probably where I think we're heading, and I think that's more than doable in the next 5 years. I really do. I mean, it's good to have. It's good to sit and reflect on what you have done, because I don't think as business owners we always do that. And so when you look back over the 5 years and you go, well, actually, we have grown from one member of staff to five. Why can't in the next 5 years can we go from 5 to 10 or whatever? It's more than doable. So yeah, so I think that's the plan. And I mean, look, I mean, not. I think sometimes with that imposter syndrome is you look at other companies and you go, so why can't I be a multinational company which has got X, Y, Z? Which I mean, some people do have that, but I think it's getting to a scale where you're happy with and you're confident and that's not for everybody. I mean, 10 members of staff, that might be where we end up. It may not be, but that might be where the manageable point is, and we go, well, look, I'm happy with it. I'm happy with it is with where it is at the moment.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think it's a journey. I think it's a journey that when you're on it, you not everyone has it all figured out, but that's okay. And I think it's actually, taking comfort in it's actually okay to be figuring this out a little bit. And it doesn't mean that anything is in concrete, but we can, we can be flexible within it. Might want this, but maybe it brings us down another path, and that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Um, Adam, so it's been great chatting to you. The 5 year anniversary, super exciting. Where can people reach out to you? Where can they find you?
I've started posting a lot more on LinkedIn in the past 6 to 8 months. So you can find us there. You can find us on Google, on Facebook, social media, or all the social media channels. I think that's the beauty of what we've done with the branding is I go to networking events now and people go, oh, I've seen what you've been doing on such and such. So that's obviously a bit of some consolation. So yes, it's a LinkedIn, into Google, all of those places.
Okay, amazing. Look forward to seeing more of your posts. And thanks so much, and congratulations on the 5 years in business. Big achievement.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks very much.
Thanks so much.